Hi, everyone. Randi Zuckerberg here. I'm delighted to be hosting the first Okcoin live shows for March in honor of International Women's Month. I sit on the brand advisory council for Okcoin and have a huge passion for getting more women into the crypto and Web3 space. And I am so delighted today to be hosting one of my absolute favorite projects in the NFT space and two of the most incredible female founders that you'll meet. Uh, Alexandra and Allie are here with me. I'll introduce them in 1 second. They're here from Meta Angels. I do want to acknowledge that this is a difficult time right now in the world. There are a lot of people suffering, and we will have CEO Hung Feng on Okcoin Live next week to discuss what Okcoin is doing, the approach to the conflict with a focus on crypto and sanctions and what that means around the world. So definitely stay tuned for that. But bringing it back to a project that has a focus on women in crypto and social good at the heart, I am so delighted to welcome Alex Kavalakis and Alison Downey, the founders of Meta Angels. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Randi.
So great
What
to be here.
what a delight. So maybe Allie, maybe you can kick us off with just a little overview of what Meta Angels is and how you decided to do this project, how the two of you started working together.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So, Meta Angels is an NFT community that is centered around the core values of generosity, transparency, and accessibility. And it came about because, back in the fall when I was really starting to dive into the NFT space and getting an understanding of the landscape, I started wondering, when I came to an understanding that tokenization was something that could be used for textbooks or potentially Airbnbs and all of these tangible things that I was looking around my life and imagining tokenization for, started wondering if tokenization could be applied to more abstract concepts like access and opportunity. And saw an opportunity to create a membership community that really is focused on opening doors to communities that people might otherwise not have access to get that level of support and expertise from others. So we built out Meta Angels to make it easier for people to make connections with others who have this central generosity of spirit that drives them to want to help and support each other.
And Alex, I feel like people might hear the two of you and think, oh, wow, these women have been in crypto forever. But I mean, you got into crypto maybe, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and now you're the CEO of an NFT company. So maybe take me through your personal journey. Could you ever have imagined in your wildest dreams a year ago that we'd be here?
So funny. I mean, a year ago, I was still at the Muse, sort of the VC-backed startup I had been at for almost a decade and co-founded with Catherine Minshew, and definitely did not have crypto on the mind yet. I mean, I'd invested a little bit in crypto, not a major amount, not early enough to make, life-changing, decisions, but I'd understood, okay, I can see where this is going. But I had not yet gotten NFTs, for lack of a better word. I'd never really seen the use case in person. And the people I saw in the space, for lack of a better term, were not my people. They were the people in Silicon Valley who weren't necessarily as inclusive or who weren't necessarily as diverse as the world I wanted to be a part of. And so what it took was Allie coming to me and being like, hey, there's this NFT project I think you might be interested in. If you've ever been curious, it's a great first project. Curious Addies. I know you're an advisor to them as well. Ben and Mai are phenomenal. We're big fans of theirs. That was my first mint. I think it was yours as well, Randi. Is that right?
It was my first one. Yes, we will forever be bonded.
It was a great first mint, and Allie was right. And put it that way, Allie found, this is a team that I believe in, which is important in the space. And for me, it was this aha moment because I had always understood NFTs more as this sort of individual thing. Like, I own this piece of art. I'm not a huge art collector in the real world. And so that translation hadn't really clicked for me. Being like, oh, this piece of art also gets me a membership to a community. It has the identity piece that you mentioned, has brand, but it has that community element. And I'm a big extrovert. I love connecting with people. I love helping people. Understanding how that could be facilitated by on-chain transactions and facilitated by NFTs and create a sense of purpose and identity, like that for me was what got me. And December 1st, I think, was the call Allie and I had where it was like, what do you think? Should we do this? And we minted February 8th. So, I mean, it is a fast moving space, but a ton of fun.
One of the things that was so exciting in looking at it is that it really feels like right now we're looking at the invention of the wheel with NFTs. That, we're still at these very basic applications with NFTs, mm-hmm. but the technology underpinning it is so interesting and has so much potential. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to jump in as early as we did with this, and be part of how that unfolds and how that new technology is shaped.
Yeah.
For sure. So it's really incredible when you think that December 1st, you're having your first discussion, and then February 8th, you minted. Based on what you were seeing in the space, what did you want to do differently? What did you want to have a unique approach to in Web3?
Such a great question. I think there were a lot of places we wanted to do unique things, and Allie, we can share a couple of those. But I think at the heart of it, what I saw was an opportunity to take decade of building businesses and that experience, and the breadth of experience across product and operations and building brands and teams. And Allie has over a decade of experience, and using that in a space where a lot of people don't. I think there's a lot of phenomenal projects in this space, a lot of great ideas. I think there's room for the professionalization of the space. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I don't mean it in a sort of, suits and offices sense. I mean it from how do you really think about building businesses and brands? So that for me from the beginning was, let's take these learnings and not just do the playbook that everyone's been doing. And I think the biggest decision we made was to go with intention and not hype. This is a very hype-driven space. It's very much around who can we get to pump us up? Who can we get to make you feel FOMO? How can we make a list that no one can get on? And that ultimately, as much as it can give you some good short-term rewards, is bad for the community. It's bad for individuals. It's anxiety-inducing. FOMO is not fun, and it doesn't lead to a quality community. And if you really believe in building the community piece, you're not just saying that to say it, then who is in it matters, and values alignments matter. So I think that was one of the things we wanted to do differently. Though we also have, technological innovation and art differentiation that was important to us. We like to fire on all cylinders.
Yeah. And on that value side, I talked about generosity, transparency, accessibility. On the generosity side, really building out a community that was purpose-driven, that's meant to elevate other people. So when people come into the community, they know what they're there for. They're there to offer help to others around them. And that could be introductions, it could be advice. There's a wide range of things it could be. That second one, transparency, there is very little transparency in Web3 right now, that founders are opaque about their identities, and being really, really deliberate and open about who we were and what our backgrounds were was important to us. And then finally, that last piece with accessibility, what Alex was talking about with the technological innovations, we built into our smart contract the very first lending mechanism that enables someone to loan an NFT to someone else so they can get the membership benefits without having to give up the token itself. And in a lot of these instances, I saw someone from Bored Apes talking recently about how they had a teacher in the community who had bought a Bored Ape early, and it was this really amazing experience for her. But no other teachers can enter the Bored Apes community now because it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So building the community in a way that was going to remain accessible to people, even if that community itself became more valuable.
Yeah.
And Allie, I love you always talk about capital A art, which I think is just one of the most fun explanations. So maybe talk to me a little bit about the art, because it sounds like your NFTs have so many utility purposes, but the art was also important to you. And so I think, that's one of the most amazing things about Meta Angels is how beautiful they are.
Yeah, it feels like another opportunity to bridge the real world and NFTs by helping showcase that NFT art and PFPs can be really spectacular art that has a place in a museum, and that you wouldn't think twice about seeing on the wall of a gallery, that it's not there because it's a novelty, it's there because it is beautiful, beautiful art. And that was really what we were looking for. And the artists that we're working with, I don't know, Alex, if you want to talk about Sarana.
Yeah, oh, I could talk about Sarana for hours. Yeah, we really went into it. We had a very clear sense, an art brief, really like actual art brief. As you know, we are over prepared, if nothing else, for most things in life. And we went out and said, we want to find someone who's going to give us this illustrative or painterly style that feels museum quality. And on top of that, let's take the additional challenge of not just making it beautiful, but making it representative, which is really important to us. I mean, the NFT space, and certainly crypto, is not one that is very diverse. It's getting better, but especially early adopters in crypto and people who made a lot of money in the early years tended to be men, and it was very highly concentrated, just like many other technological innovations. And so representation is important. If you see art that shows you or shows people like you, that's really key. And so we built a 10,000 piece collection. So they're angels. For anyone who's not familiar, they're beautiful angels designed by Sarana Hayata. And they show the full spectrum of race and gender. And they are beautiful. And they are, give you a sense of this fluidity of humanity. And you can find one that looks like you, that looks like your friend, your neighbor. That was really important to us as well. And for it to be something that you would want to use as a badge, as identity. If you have that as your it's your profile picture somewhere, you're saying something about yourself, about the kind of person you want to be, the kind of space you want, the way you want the NFT world to operate, and that you want it to be more inclusive, you want it to be more accessible, and that you want to help others. That for us is really the indication. But the art is beautiful enough that we have it, we're printing it and putting it on our walls. And one of our members just shared a picture actually today. We have this high-res printing for our members where you can have a signed copy of your NFT with Sarana's signature and the number of your token in her handwriting. And so that is also transferring that little special something of real art and having it be something that you live with. So no, we can't forget that a big piece of it is getting beautiful art and then this community alongside it.
I can attest, I have a custom one that was made for me where the wings are rainbow balloons, and I literally booted our wedding photo off the wall because I was like, this is the location that I need this in. So that is how spectacular the art is. One thing that I thought was so awesome is how there were a lot of newcomers to NFTs that minted for the first time with your project. Why do you think that was? How did you make it so welcoming to newcomers and bring so many people into the fold?
I mean, I think it was an important thing to us. And Allie did, a lot of thinking as well with me on how we would make it feel inclusive, how we'd have the resources and skills around it. But I think that one of the things Allie mentioned earlier is really important. If you know who is behind it, this is a space where you don't know it from the outside, it's a little scary. Both the technological piece, how do you get a wallet? How do you get set up? All of that. How do you buy ETH? What is ETH? But for those of you who don't know, Randi has the best introductory videos. Follow her on Twitter and YouTube. I love them. I share them with people all the time. But the other piece of it is, who am I getting an NFT from? Right? I think that a lot of people who looked at us and our team and the fact that we were willing to not be anonymous and show our track record and said, if I'm going to make a leap, I want it to be somewhere that I feel comfortable and in a community that feels welcoming.
Yeah. And that welcoming, it's not rocket science. It's about greeting people and saying hello to them. And it can be as simple as that. I heard someone say once, and it might have been a tweet, that diversity is being invited to the party and inclusion is being asked to dance. And that's the job that we have is making sure that once people walk into the room, they feel like they have something to do there and that they're really invited to be part of it.
Yeah, I think the other upside of a community like ours, especially that's focused on helping people in real life, is you don't need to be an expert in Web3 or NFTs to be a really engaged, valuable member of the community. Two of our first sub-channels were meta parents and angel foodies. And people would arrive and they didn't know anything about NFTs. They were invited by a friend and they're like, hi, I'm a mom of 3 and I love food. And you had these 2 channels and you found your people. And I think that's a key thing. You want to find your people. Humans are tribal in our essence. We want to be connected. We want to feel in sync with the people around us. And we want to know that we belong. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for in these communities online after these last 2 years that have been so challenging globally, personally for people, and as a society where we've lost so many of the deep connections that held us together, is being able to go and find others. We have like a dozen twin parents in our Meta Parents channel, and every time a new one comes, it's like a bat signal. They're like, twin parents unite. I love it. It's amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's just like, I think that is a big piece of it as well, is if they felt welcome and like they had something to contribute, then making the leap to the NFT side wasn't quite so hard.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who, and even I was guilty of this before I got into NFTs, you sit there and you think, why would someone pay so much money for a JPEG? And you don't realize until you get into it how important the community is to the whole thing. And so you guys really nailed that.
Thank you. And I think it's something I also think about is you've got the art piece, yes, right? But how much money might you spend on a membership association every year? How much might you spend on a club, right? Or, for your yoga membership that you go to and you get something out of it, but you do it because it's a community. You have all these different things you spend on that aren't art. That might be your identity. That might be for beauty in your life. It might be because you like to collect things. It could be a handbag. It could be anything, right? This falls into that, all of that. It's not just the one-to-one art connection. What's beautiful about art is that artists get rewarded for their work and they get properly compensated for their work. And that is a really phenomenal part of the sort of blockchain.
In perpetuity as well.
Yeah, that technological advancement that allows that to happen. But I think once you realize it's not just collecting art, because there's not actually that many art collectors in the world, but it's about all these other things, you realize that you actually already have those patterns in your life. You just are doing it a different way.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question I've been dying to ask you guys since February 8th, because you were, this whole time I've been knowing you've been pre-mint, and now that we're post-mint, I've been wondering what it's like to run a business where every single person who's bought into it feels like they should be able to access you 24 hours a day. Because listen, I have to tell you, if on the beginning of Facebook or anything that I've ever been involved in, if we had to answer to every customer every day, we never would have built anything. But yet with Web3, people buy one JPEG and they just have this assumption that the entire founding team of a project is available and accountable to them around the clock. So how do you manage that and set boundaries?
That's such a great question. And I mean, I think it's both. I think it's part of the beauty of the space. And it comes back to both the experience and the sort of ethos of a project, of how you manage it. But I think of my background in building products, right? And running engineering, product and design teams. And the biggest thing is being user-centric and being user-first and talking to your users. I get to talk to my users all day long if I want to. Now, the problem is I shouldn't talk to them all day long because I also need to do other things and build partnerships and run a business. And that is important to carve out. But I can drop in and ask my users for feedback and I will get instant answers. That is amazing as a product builder, if you think of it and turn it on its head that way. And we did this with the art too. It was actually one of the things that was beautiful for us as much as it was for our users. When Serrana was designing the wings, said, hey, I'm making wings. What would you love to see? Think of wild and crazy things. And people suggested stained glass wings. There are 3 in the collection. Hydrangea wings from Brad at Curious Addies, as well as the kintsugi wings. Those both came from Brad. They are in the collection. Someone said, I love short curly hair that represents my daughter. And that we now have that haircut. And so being able for them to be a part of it and for us to get inspiration from them, I think is actually really beautiful. It's then being consistent with who you are and showing up and having a strategy. I think for people who are a little bit less experienced, I think it must be really challenging to feel like you are being pulled by your community when your job is to lead the community. And so that's where, even in an environment where people want announcements every day and updates all the time, we have a ton in the works, moving at record speeds. They're not going to get announced 2 days earlier because people are impatient. They're going to arrive just on time and be really fantastic. And when they come out, people will be excited. And it's important for us to remember our role is to deliver that quality, not to be reactive.
And there's another opportunity in the space right now because, it's amazing at how fast it moves. I've worked in politics. I have run a startup. This is a pace like nothing else I have ever seen, and on an order of magnitude faster than anything else I've ever done. And it drives a real problem in culture and mental health. If people feel like things need to be moving at that pace consistently and they're looking for the instant gratification of announcements, if we're able to step up in the space and set a tone of realistic expectations about when things are going to roll out and how they're going to roll out, really trying to adjust those expectations about what is going to help build a long-term sustainable business and culture.
Yeah. And I think it's such a great point, because so many projects launch and do a few things and then move on to other variations or derivatives or projects. If you're going to be around for years, you can't have a drop every 4 days. I mean, you can, but they won't be good. Right. And like what matters is quality, not quantity. And so I think that's absolutely right. I mean, we purposefully avoid doing announcements on weekends unless we need to, not because people aren't online on the weekends. And certainly we drop in, but we'll also tell folks, hey, I'm going to the park with my kids. I hope you guys get outside today. It's Saturday. Get off Discord. Like, come on. Like and it's both, I think it's out of respect of our users as well. They should have lives outside of Discord. They should go and do impactful things in their communities and do a great job at work and kick ass, and then come back and have this network that can be there and support them. And if they drop in 15 times a day or twice a week, that should be okay too. It's the same reason when we do giveaways and things like that, we try to have them be at least 48 hours, not 6 hours, so that people are waking up at 3 a.m. to make sure they didn't miss something, right? Like that is unhealthy and unsustainable for the space.
Yeah, for sure. I used to have a somewhat healthy balance with my phone, and now I'm just like constantly on tech all the time. I need to like re-find the right balance with tech again in my life. You mentioned your artist Sarana. You have been working across crazy time zones. Talk to me a little bit about what that's like to literally run a project with an executive team that's around the globe.
It was a lot of fun in some ways and wild in the others. I think in the end, it was a competitive advantage. So I'm based in New York, where Sarana and her husband Tom are based, and her 4 kids. They are 16 and a half hours time difference from us. And so it meant that we had...
They're in the future. They live in the
future all the time.
And a half hours in the future, to be exact.
The half hour got me every time. But it meant that we either had mornings or evenings, essentially. And then while I had my normal workday, they were asleep. And when they had their normal workday, we were asleep. And so we actually, I don't know if we would have been able to launch at the breakneck speed that we did if we actually weren't working around the clock in a way, because every morning I would wake up and I'd have new layers from Sarana, and I would run tests and I would update logic, and we would do art generation, and we'd also do stuff that was not art related that needed to happen. And then they'd wake up and we'd have a conversations or hop on Zoom. Our art reviews were often 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. my time. I'm a night owl, so I actually don't mind at all. My kids are asleep. It's good. For them, it was early morning with their kids running around having Cheerios. It's perfect. We're family-friendly company here. But it was just amazing to do that. And then I would go to bed, and while I was sleeping, those changes were happening. I'd wake up and we'd do it all over again. So it was a little bit wild and crazy, but it's also, it also ended up being amazing. And frankly, for the right people, I think a team and execution is all around the quality of the people you have. We were so fortunate to have the best team. And Gabe on the technical side is phenomenal. And so I would rather have someone 16 and a half hours away who is just the perfect one than someone closer to home.
I have so many questions about why a half-hour time zone even has.
That's Australia. Talk to Australia about it.
Like, I will literally call up the continent of Australia and be like, why is that necessary?
It's amazing.
In just a moment, we're going to go to some more rapid fire questions to close out. But I'm just curious, before we do that, maybe what both of you are excited about for the coming months for Meta Angels, what you're going to be unlocking with the lending, and what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah. For me, especially with the lending, I am just excited to onboard more people into NFTs and more women and people of color particularly, and making the space feel less intimidating, more accessible, and opening those doors and doing a lot of education and on-ramping and making the space feel so much more welcoming.
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, there's so much that we have in works, but I'm really excited about the opportunity we have to take sort of our lens in the space and show another way. And there's certainly a lot of ways that are working and think inspiration we will take from what people have done successfully, but everything from how we went about, deciding the kind of art to do, to our mint, to our lending, it's been different and it has worked for us. And I think other projects will find their own path, but the most success is going to come from people being true to who they are, knowing what they're looking to build and doing that over the long term. And so really building out a community where there's a real benefit to being a member in your day-to-day life. I think that is how I think of it, is you want to stop by Meta Angels because it's going to make your day better. Either because you want to say hi to people that you've built a relationship with and it's like a little nice pick-me-up, because you have a question and you're not sure who else to turn to, because you have an interview at Deloitte next week and you want to know if someone works there, which happened today and they made 2 connections, right? Like that sort of thing. Yes, the NFT world is amazing. And yes, we are going to make so many amazing advancements for people who onboard to Web3, but we still live in the real world. And so what gets me excited is that we can really help do that for people. And we have so many different ways we're doing that, including the lending. So yeah, I get excited about so much potential.
It's truly amazing. And I can to the beauty of the community because I met my own co-founder through the Meta Angels community. So it's truly a beautiful place. Okay, rapid fire time. Alex, we'll start with you. Twitter, Telegram, or Discord? You can only have one.
Twitter all the way. Twitter.
Allie, what about you?
Same for me. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Discord is like a Ouija board of chaos and destruction, I think.
I obviously need and live in Discord all the time, but I find Twitter for my personal life, I love the discovery of it and how I'm exposed to new things.
Yes. Okay. Allie, we'll start this next one with you. If a family member was like, but here's some money, buy me any crypto or any NFT, what are you buying for them?
Yeah. So it's ETH. I am so bullish on the ecosystem overall and all the opportunities for what is getting built on it. So that is the point of entry for me now. For friends.
Totally.
I totally agree. If we're talking about crypto specifically, that's exactly what I would say. On the NFT side, I think the 2 communities that I would recommend for total newcomers outside of Meta Angels would be Curious Addies and Zen Academy. I think if you're thinking about onboarding people to an educationally focused, supportive community with phenomenal founders, those would be the 2 that I would think of to help get the membership piece. After lending with Meta Angel, I'd do that next.
Perfect. All right. So Alex, kick us off with what do you do when you're not doing crypto and NFTs? Like, do you have hobbies or things you do outside of Web3?
So my past hobbies were reading and cycling. Cycling I have lost for both the amount of time it takes and the fact that someone stole my bike in the streets of New York.
No.
I know after a decade, I miss her dearly. But reading, I'm a big Kindle user, and so that has continued to be really great. I read while walking down the streets of New York, like one eye on the sidewalk and one eye on my book, which is not the safest, but I have a lot of practice in it.
That's going to be in our next discussion with the half-hour time zone of how you can read a book and walk. Are you reading anything good right now?
Let me see. I recently went back because I hadn't had a chance to finish it and read Shoe Dog, the Nike executive book, which is a good read. But I tend to like fiction. I read instead of watching TV rather than reading instead of reading the newspaper. I find that it is actually, for people who are sort of thinking about reading more, it has allowed me to get deeper into focusing. Right, in a world where we have so much distraction, you can watch TV and be on your phone and do other things. You can't really read and do anything else other than walk if you're really good at it. So
I definitely could not read and walk. Allie, what about you? What are you doing?
I'm the same. I'm a big reader as well. I was an English major in college and then I had an MFA in fiction writing. So literature has always been my escape. And I had a doctor who told me a few years ago when he was asking, do you ever meditate? No, his brain can't meditate. He said that there were studies that showed that reading fiction gave the same sense of mindfulness that meditating does. So I have really even more embraced the time that I spend reading prior to launching a crypto project.
Any good books that you're reading now?
So one of my favorite recently, it was Joe Piazza and Christine Pride's book, We Are Not Like Them. Cannot recommend it more highly. And we're looking at some exciting things to do in the future with literature and books in our community overall.
Yes. Okay, wait, Allie, I think this next one's a fun one. What's the worst piece of advice that someone gave you about crypto or Web3?
Oh man. I mean, the best piece of advice I'll say is take your time before jumping in. And I didn't listen to it. And I wound up just getting pulled into FOMO and getting rugged twice. So rugged on a project that I just didn't know better. I just assumed all NFT projects take off. And this one did not. And the other one was getting scammed. So I guess worst piece of advice would be to jump in right away. I had another friend who said, yeah, just buy something. And I would advise anyone to take a deep breath, look around, spend some time learning. And then once you feel comfortable, that's when it's time to dive in.
Yeah, totally. Alex, what do you think? Worst piece of advice?
I think the worst piece of advice someone could give is to sort of look for the hype. I think it's important to know why you're getting involved in an NFT project, why you're buying anything in the crypto space. And personally, I think it's important to like what you buy. Because I remember one of the examples that Allie gave me, she bought something and then later she's like, I hate this. I don't like it. I don't like to look at it. I don't think that I own it. It actually doesn't.
I want it out of my wallet.
I want it out of my wallet. And that's a real thing, right? And so I think, especially for people who are new, if something is going up and up and up, you're already too late. Right? You weren't part of it at the beginning where that's going to be a big financial gain necessarily. And you have a lot of downside and you don't know why you're buying or what's created the hype, if it's real, if it's not. If you're looking for things that matter to you, whether it's the art or the community or the founding team or the charity it's behind, whatever it might be, then you can feel a lot more confident regardless of where the sort of price or the market goes.
Yeah. I want to thank both of you because in addition, we were just talking about worst advice, but one of the things that I think is so amazing about both of you is not only are you building a great business and community, but you take the time to do thought leadership and to give advice to everyone. You're both constantly writing amazing Twitter threads, whether it's about what you learned going through the mint process or what it was like to have artificial intelligence generated copy. I mean, it's so awesome to read everything you're doing. So, Ellie, where can people go to connect with you and to find out more?
Yeah, so I'm at Alison Downey on Twitter, 2 L's and a Y. I'm not related to Robert Downey Jr.'s sister. I'm not her. That is an endless point of confusion, just for those wondering. And then our Meta Angels account is at meta_angels on Twitter.
Yeah, and if you're looking for if you want to learn more about the project, we're at metaangelsnft.com, and so you can see the art, you can see some of our values. We've got a Twitter tab there that has all of our mega Twitter threads all in one place, so you can find them easily. And then personally, you can find me at ACAV on Twitter. So I hope you will join us and join our Discord. It's linked from our website. There's still sort of things that are accessible whether or not you are a holder. And then the core channels are there for our members as well, but we'll be excited to bring in people who are lending both through our programs and through Hug on Randy's side very soon.
Yes. So I would definitely encourage everyone to go to Meta Angels to learn more. Take it slow. Don't FOMO in. Learn about the community. I think you'll be as excited to purchase a Meta Angel as I was. If you are listening to this and you're super excited and you don't have the crypto or you're not at a place to purchase yet, that's where I come in. My company has 100 Meta Angels that we're loaning to people who want to learn more about Web3. So please come to the hug.xyz, and we have an easy application process that you can go through. Thank you both, Allie, Alex, so much. You are such inspirations to me and to so many people in this community. Thank you for being so generous with your time and your thoughtfulness, and truly appreciate both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Randy. This was great to chat with you today, and excited to have Women's History Month to highlight so many other women in the space.
Yes. So I hope everyone enjoys our Women's History Month coverage. This is Okcoin Live. And I would encourage you, if you're seeing this content on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're seeing it on social media, like, retweet, do whatever you can to share this more broadly. It's been awesome to be a guest host here on Okcoin Live. I'm Randi Zuckerberg. Thanks for having me.